Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Game Surgeons podcast, a podcast series where we dissect video game mechanics and the ways that they interact and intersect with both each other and the narrative being told. My name is Shane and I'm here with Kyle.
Hello.
Now Kyle, this podcast was your creative endeavor. Tell me a little bit about what you're hoping to achieve here.
Yeah, so I'm making a game at the moment, not in any serious way, sort of a hobby. But I realized that I don't really know gameplay type stuff. I know how to play games, but I don't know what goes into making a game play well. And so I wanted to dig into that and see what I can take from various games.
Yeah, excellent. And we're going to be looking at quite a few different types of games, lots of different genres, lots of different eras of games, and hoping to pick them apart and kind of see what's good, what's worth leaving behind, and how it all fits together. So I think it's quite beneficial to kind of contextualize who we are as gamers, because Kyle, you and I both enjoy really different things in games.
Oh yeah.
And I think that we're going to kind of clash about our values over some things, and I think it's going to be a good thing, because we're both going to have really different perspectives.
Oh, absolutely.
So first off, a little bit about me. I'm one of those people where gameplay is king. Spectacle, do not give a about spectacle. World building and everything is great, but gameplay and game design, mechanics, that sort of stuff, that is my domain. Because of that, I love Nintendo games, because I think that they are one of the best out there in that realm. And some of my favorite games are like Zelda Breath of the Wild. I love the Metroid Prime games. A more recent one is Death Stranding, which I've fallen in love with. How about you, Carl? What is your gaming preferences?
Oh boy, I am heavily into the narrative. I am all about plot, world building, background lore, details that you're not going to find as like something that someone uses to describe the game, but they're there if you're looking. I love that stuff, and that's actually the main reason why I want to dive into this as a gameplay dissection, because that's what I don't know. So
yeah, and I think gameplay can inform and really enhance narrative when done correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have some stuff to talk about with the game we're talking about today.
Yes,
that will dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that this game is going to be a great example. So we're going to be tackling Ghost of Tsushima today. So Ghost of Tsushima was released for the PlayStation 4 back in July 2020 and got a re-release in the PlayStation 5 a little over a year later.
Which version are you playing?
So I played the original version, so the PS4 release.
Cool. I also played the PS4 release when it first came out. And then when it came out again on PS5, I picked that up again as well.
Yeah.
So if there are any differences between the two, I can discuss that today.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah. You've been able to see it a lot better than I. So Ghost was developed by the studio Sucker Punch. They're best known for the Sly Cooper and Infamous franchises. So this is a bit of a departure of sorts. There's a few like gameplay and mechanic overlaps with Infamous, more so Second Son than some of the previous ones. But Ghost, it tells the tale of a samurai named Jin Sakai on his quest to protect the aforementioned Tsushima Island from an ongoing invasion by Mongolian forces. That's a tongue twister. It plays as an open-world, third-person action game with an emphasis on stealth and close-quarters combat. So as you were mentioning before, I played on a base PS4, a launch PS4. I played the original version, and I played about 10 to 15 hours, finishing Act 1 of the 3 acts. So yeah, how far did you get through?
So when I originally played it on PS4, I beat the game. I don't think I 100%ed it, but I did do most of the first and second areas and then kind of race towards the end in the third area. Having played on PS5 now, I beat the first area and I was trying desperately to get to the DLC in time for this recording, but I could not make it, unfortunately. If there are any changes between the two, we'll be discussing like just the gameplay changes, but nothing that's in the DLC.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not privy to know what's in the DLC. If there are new mechanics or new whatevers, But yeah, there's still so many systems in the base game. So we're going to tackle those. All right, let's get dissecting. So there are quite a number of mechanics, systems. There's a lot going on in this game. Like by nature of it being an open world game, there's usually quite a few different things that all kind of layer on top of each other.
I think it's more by nature of being a modern game, to be honest.
That as well. Yeah. Modern games are like just filled to the brim with all sorts of things.
Yes.
So we probably won't go through everything because there is an enormous amount.
Just too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
And a lot of the systems are very stock standard. They're fine. They're good for what they are. They don't necessarily give or take away a whole ton.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one thing we definitely have to talk about is the guiding wind. That I feel like that's one of the biggest things that this game is known for.
Yeah, it's probably the most unique feature for the game, despite it being the most basic thing and included in every open world game.
Yeah, it's just done differently.
It is. It's so I used this word with you the other week, and I had to describe what exactly I meant. It's rare to have something diegetic in the game that performs a gameplay function that navigates the player. I've seen it in games with cars, with GPS in the car in the game, and that's treated diegetically. And I've also seen it in some racing games where the blinker will turn on to tell you which direction you're supposed to take.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that stuff too. But in an older style game, and by that what I mean is like a historical game, it's rarely something this immersive.
Yeah, well, you can't really expect Jin to, when he's riding his horse, to turn on his blinkers or anything like that.
No, but I expected him to pull out a smartphone, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Made out of wood. A bamboo
smartphone, yeah. So what did you think of the guiding wind in general?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. This came out in 2020, which honestly wasn't that long ago. But this is very much in the center of open world games just having a ton of crap to collect.
So much.
You turn on like a Far Cry, an Assassin's Creed, a Watch Dogs, like anything like that. And
I like that all three that you
they're all
mentioned
Ubisoft,
were all
aren't they?
Ubisoft games.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other open world examples. Everything is just Ubisoft in my mind.
There's GTA.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much of the GTA game, so I don't know if this is a good example of it. But I feel like you turn on so many open world games and you look at your map and there's just icons everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. But it's really refreshing in Ghost because you open up your map and it's bare. Like you have to walk around and kind of like create the map as you walk. You start to open things up.
Yes, it's like a fog of war in an old school RTS game.
That's a good description of it. And it's actually cool because it's like later on you can get buffs that make the fog of war spread like larger, so you open up more of the map as you go, which I thought was really, really clever. Because
I think I missed that on my second playthrough.
Goodness, I'm a bit of a completionist, so that scratched that itch for me. But with the guiding wind, it's like this whole game is minimalistic. It's very, very minimalistic for an open world game. Like, yes, there are so many activities to do between fox dens and haikus and hot springs and everything like that. They're out there, but they're not just all littering your map.
Yes.
It's very subtle. Even the UI is very subtle, and I love that. It makes it so much more immersive.
So I actually don't remember the UI on the original version. Is there a UI default to play the game?
Yeah, it's default, but it's very small and up in the corner. It's pretty much like your health and your spirit, whatever it's called.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I must have turned the UI off when I played this time. So I could not see anything except when I use Guiding Wind, it would pop up in the top left-hand corner with how far until my destination.
I like that.
Yeah, so even in combat, I didn't have anything until I was nearly dead.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And that's that's awesome that you can play the game like that, and it's not just shambles.
And it's not harder because of it. Like I'm not a person that enjoys playing hard games either. As I said before, narrative is the most important thing to me. So if I play a game, I'm playing it to get through it. So I chose to play on medium difficulty this time. And I usually choose easy. And I had next to no like difference in difficulty just from me choosing to not have the UI on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's great. Like there's so few games that you'd be able to play with a UI turned off.
Yeah.
But I think that the guiding wind, like coming back to that one again, is just like it's so good because even with the UI off, it's so gentle. So it can just like, you know, it's in the name. It's the wind. It just guides you to your direction instead of like a big flashing compass. Instead of like, you know, all those different tropes.
There's no lights on the roads pointing you in the direction.
No, nothing like that.
Yep.
It's just like a gentle wind, which is a visual effect. And again, it fits so well within the universe.
Yes.
Like,
and it's not just the wind either, because the wind is blowing on the grass.
Yes.
You will see the reeds always like pointing in that direction, like swaying back and forth, but like pointing in a certain direction. So even if you can't see the wind itself, you can see the grass, and it's so good and so picturesque.
Oh, it's beautiful. And it's like something I really like about it is, so, you know, you set your waypoint or whatever it is, and you can I think it's like you swipe up on the touchpad to make the wind blow. But even if you don't do that, the wind will be naturally blowing towards it. So it is like a subtle thing. So often I'll set a waypoint and then I'll go exploring, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I should get back to it. Which way do I go? And the world is pointing in that direction.
It's always kind of just subtle. Taking you there.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's subtle. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I think is a victory. I think that's a mechanic I want to see more and more games use. And they can, you know, you can modernize it. But I think when I say modernize it in like a more modern settings.
Yeah.
But I think in this, you know, traditional Japan style, I think it just works fantastically.
And it fits into the narrative too. There is a point pretty early in the game where it points out to you that it is your father's spirit telling you where to go.
Yep.
Yeah. And like, you know, the real world, that's not a thing. It may not even be a thing here, as long as the character believes that. That's all that matters, right? So,
and it makes sense in universe, and it adds the narrative, and that's the sign of a winning mechanic where it just ticks all those boxes.
So, speaking of the guiding wind taking you in other directions, did you notice anything else guiding you anywhere?
Yes, and this is something I noticed about the game. This is something that Breath of the Wild does as well. It's like a kind of breadcrumb system. So the way that the world is designed, and this is fantastic. Now that I say this, you're going to be doing nothing but seeing it. But when you go to a point of interest, when you look around, you can always see another point of interest. It's the way that the game is visually designed, whether it be, you know, something like super obvious, like, oh, I can see a flag up there, I'm going to go take it down. Or something more subtle where it's like, oh, there's like a bunch of purple trees over there. I wonder what that's about. And I love that because it's that just one more thing itch. It just scratches it.
The visual design is superb.
Oh, it's very, very good.
Yeah. Every different area has its own color scheme, so that when you are in an area and you see something else off in the distance that is a different color, automatically you are going to be drawn to that.
Yeah.
It is just gorgeous.
It's absolutely beautiful. Like quite early on, there's a golden forest, and then there's like the golden temple, which is up on the hill, like in the middle of the golden forest. And everyone, again, in the universe talks about it as is like safe haven. And quite often it's like, if you save someone from I can't even say the word, Mongolian attack, thank you. Quite often, Jin will say, I'll go to the Golden Temple. And straight away, you're like, I know where the Golden Temple is. It's in the Golden Forest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, I think on my first playthrough, like I went there straight away because the game sort of pushes you there, but it never tells you to actually go there. It's not the point of any quest or anything. You just kind of find your way there at some point very early on. And then from there, it becomes this central refuge for, I mean, refugees, I guess.
Yeah, well, quite literally, yeah.
But that's not actually the thing that I was talking about with guiding.
Okay. I thought you were going to talk. Yeah, I thought you were talking about the breadcrumb system. Okay,
No.
so what were you talking about?
Had you noticed the birds at all?
Oh, like the golden birds?
Yes.
Yes. I did notice that one, how you can just be chilling somewhere and a bird will come down and just be flying around and, you're inclined to follow it, right?
I mean, in any other game, I don't think I would be, because no other games really fill their worlds with this kind of wildlife that begs attention in that way. You might have something that's like visually stunning, but it's like, oh, look at that, and then move on in any other game. But here in Ghost of Tsushima, what happens is the bird will fly down literally in front of you and sort of like...
Yeah, it shows you, says, I'm important, pay attention to me.
Yeah, it draws so much attention to it. And they take you to points of interest, whether that be side quests, whether that be collectibles. It can be a number of things. But the thing that you learn is like, follow the wildlife.
Yeah.
It's... Everything, every bit of nature in this game is so important to how you actually interact with the game, and I love it so much for that.
Yeah, and it ties in so well with like the Shintoism, the Code of the Samurai, like everything that's going on. That parcel of old school Japanese culture, like everything just feels like just correct. Like I know that there's been some arguments about the validity of like how some of the areas are portrayed, compared to how they actually were like back in those days. But I think this game is not to be taken literally.
No,
one.
It's like Forza Horizon 3.
Yeah.
So, spoilers, we're Australian, if you couldn't tell. Forza Horizon 3 is set on the east coast of Australia, and you can drive from Sydney to Gold Coast up to the 12 Apostles, I think, in like a 10-minute period in-game.
Try 10 hours in the real world. Maybe.
10 hours is conservative. Yeah. That is thousands of kilometers apart.
But it's exciting because it's like a buffet type of thing. It's kind of like like there's a little bit of like talking about Forza, there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and we're like, oh, I know this, I know that. Obviously it's not in that order. And I think that Ghost of Tsushima, like both you and I have been to Japan many times, and we've been to like all different parts of Japan, some of the slightly more remote ones outside the big cities, and like we've seen like this. I feel like it did a pretty good job capturing of what I've seen, what I've experienced. Absolutely. But I think that the world design, how nature points you in things, I think it's conceptually it works, narratively
it just
works.
So clever.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the exploration is quite rewarding. But it's funny because like the things that you get are very mundane. Like, you get to a hot spring, you get your health go up, right? Or there's the one where you cut the bamboo and it's like your spirit goes up, or, it's just like really, small things like that. Yeah. But it's the way that the game leads you and you feel that desire to explore.
It just feels so exciting every time something like that comes up. And no matter what you're doing, you always feel the desire to follow along on these little paths that they set you. Not because you have to at all, but just because it's so intriguing that they wave these in front of you in the way that they have. So I truly do commend them for making an open world experience feel as full as it has, without littering a map with icons.
Yeah. And like I'm usually quite critical of open world games because I think if you want your world to be open world, there's one of two things you need to justify. Ideally both things, but one, the traversal has to be great. So using Spider-Man as an example, traversal is just fun in that game.
I don't think I fast traveled once in that game.
No, like I didn't really feel the desire to just because it's so fun to just
apparently there are train scenes in that game. They're funny. I've never seen one.
Yeah. So, like, great traversal. Well, Ghost doesn't have great traversal. Like, it's fine, but it's nothing like stellar. But the second thing is, that reward for exploration where it feels fun to explore, where it's not just like ticking off a checklist and saying, I got all the things.
I'm looking at you, Ubisoft.
I'm looking at you, Ubisoft. Oh my goodness. Right, you want to get into the more combat stuff of the game?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the combat here is anything revolutionary. I have been playing it a lot over the last day or so because it's the only time I've had. Lucky me. And the combat is sort of built on what Batman Arkham Asylum had done. That
I didn't make that connection, but that's a good point.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dance. It's I think technically Assassin's Creed would have done it first with Assassin's Creed 2 properly, but it is that dance of attack, parry, and counter style gameplay. There are various enemy types that will like change how you have to tackle any one of the situations that you are put in, but it doesn't vary all that much. Honestly, I'm enjoying it, but overall, I think it gameplay-wise is a little disappointing.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people like say that the combat is fantastic. I think it's fine. I think it's completely serviceable. Yeah, I never really made that Batman Arkham connection, but it's that is how it is.
It's just that there's sort of a rhythm to it.
Yeah, it's a rhythm. It's like a dance. That actually ties in quite well with how what's the word? It's like the stage plays that they used to have in Japan. Where they
Kabuki?
Yeah, Kabuki. They'd have these Kabuki shows. I'm not quite sure what the terminology is. But it'd always be like, your protagonist versus a horde of bad guys. But the horde of bad guys would not attack at once. They'd be one by one.
Yes. Yeah.
And like that's how they used to portray it on the Kabuki. And I think the fact that it happens in this game as well is fantastic. It's like...
Honestly, I don't think that's intentional.
Yeah, probably unintentional, but nevertheless, it works within a gameplay and narrative standpoint. It's an interesting mix because you've got the balance between the ghost style and the samurai style, which is like going in stealthily versus going in honorably. So for example, like a stealth one is you could literally just like sneak into a base and just like maul everyone one by one from behind, not raise any alarms, versus a samurai style where you can go to literally the front gate and say, bring your best, like who else is coming out, and you can just like take them out
and
one
just
by
cut
one.
them down. Yeah,
I think I think it's great that you can do both. And I think it rewards both styles.
It does. That's actually one of the things that I really wanted to bring up is that when you are playing as the ghost type style, that stealth gameplay is encouraged, and the way that's rewarded is by giving you extra, for lack of a better word, experience for monitoring and viewing a camp before you start taking enemies down.
Oh, I love that with the like leader of like a camp. Either you can assassinate him or you can observe him.
But you can do both and get double the points. You can
do both, can't you? That's right. So it rewards you to observe them beforehand.
Yes.
But it also gives you the option of observing him and walking away and still getting a reward, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you just want to gain up a whole bunch of experience before actually tackling any fights, technically you could go around to every fort on the island and just watch all of the leaders.
Yeah, just find a way to watch them.
Yeah, and then just start over from the beginning and start slaying them all.
Yeah.
Which is just so weird to think about. I can't remember a game ever actually telling me, yeah, you could just leave now. You've got something for this.
Yeah, I like that. I really commend that.
Yeah, it was really good. That said, the disappointing thing for me here is that the way you play doesn't actually fit into the narrative.
Yeah, well, I think it fits into the narrative, but it doesn't change the narrative. So like within the game, there's a bit of like, Jin's raised as a samurai and wanting to be honorable, but you kind of learn early on that you need to be the ghost. You need to be like the more ninja assassin style. And within the narrative, people talk about you as, the ghost of Tsushima, and your uncle, Is that the guy?
Uncle Shimura.
Yeah, that your uncle shows disappointment in you for like pursuing that path and that sort of stuff, which I think is cool within a narrative sense. However, you could go pure samurai run.
Yes.
Not be a ghost once.
And I have.
And it won't change a damn thing.
It doesn't change
anything.
I think I'm not so much disappointed that it doesn't change anything as I am kind of angry. This game keeps admonishing me in its narrative for having taken the cowardly, unnoble route. And I'm like, I am here shouting down every single person that I find and attacking them head on.
Yeah.
I have not backstabbed a single person other than those two that you're required to in that first bit where Yuna, your companion who is showing you the dark side, where she introduces you to the mechanic. And to be fair to me, I also tried to avoid that, but the game wouldn't let me.
You can't. And the game does admonish you. Like, I get it within the universe saying, oh, you should be honorable, but it reaches a point where it's just saying, like, you're doing the wrong thing. And I'm like, I'm doing what you want me to do.
Yes.
Like, what do you want from me here?
There's some cutscenes where your character, Jin Sakai, is not actually present for them. It's just showing you the viewpoint of your uncle while he's, spoiler alert, held in captivity for a while, right? And for some reason, no matter what you've done, Khotun Khan, the main bad guy of this game, will talk about how his soldiers have been finding their own people stabbed in the back.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, that's not me.
It wasn't me. It was the other guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have not been doing any of
I didn't do a single one of those.
Yeah. At worst, I have arrowed people from behind because it's the best way to get everyone's attention when literally I am not allowed to go in shouting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know what this game wants from me. Or rather, I do know what it wants, but I don't know how it expects me to carry out what it wants.
So the actual like system of, you know, the quiet versus loud, I think it's great. I'm glad that it's there. It's really close to bridging that gap into narrative. It's really close.
It's really close.
But then it kind of like stumbles at the end and the veil is kind of torn away.
Yes. I will say there was one particularly good mission recently. I think the one where you have to free Ryuzo's straw hat friends from the captive camp that they're in. I really enjoyed that one because I could free them all without raising an alarm and then go loud. Yeah. And I didn't actually have to fight anyone until the going loud part.
Yeah.
So I didn't end up killing anyone until all of the captives were free.
Yeah.
And that was just via clever use of wind chimes and stuff. It's technically still ghost thingies.
But you're not killing anyone.
But I'm not killing anyone.
It's not dishonorable.
There's no stabbing in the back.
Yeah.
I am an honorable samurai.
When I played, I was a very honorable samurai where I enjoyed opening up the cages where bears are being kept.
Yeah, me too, actually.
And then jumping on the roof and just watching the bears just like maul the Mongolians.
Yes. There's one on a ship. Where with Ryuzo's people as well, and I was just like,
good luck.
Oh yes, I know what I'm doing here.
It's definitely got some Far Cry energy with the ways that you can kind of like use some more environmental stuff.
I actually forgot Far Cry did that.
Yeah, it did, and it's the same type of thing. How there'll be the outposts, and you kind of try to find the best way in. Except with Ghost, it's a little bit more straightforward. It's like, here's the way that you go in stealthily, but Far Cry is a bit more loose and fluid with that.
Speaking of outposts, actually, I feel like I've been overly negative on this game so far, and I'm about to be again.
Always going in.
Yep. The outpost design of open world games, it's kind of a necessity. I do understand that somewhat. What I don't like is when you take one of the outposts in these games, you get parts of the map revealed, like a big circle of the fog disappears.
Right. Yep.
And I'm not so much against that as I am it revealing points of interest on the map.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be too bad if not for what the points of interest are. Why are the Mongolians tracking where the fox dens are?
Yeah, just strange things like that.
Yeah.
It kind of gets rid of that breadcrumb system and makes it a little bit more of the Ubisoft, like, here's your thing. I wonder if they went with that decision because they wanted to give a greater reward for taking an outpost. I wonder if they were like, we need to, because, you know, you get your experience, you get your supplies. I think it becomes like a fast travel spot as well or whatever.
They do, yes.
But maybe they just wanted to give it a little bit more oomph. But I don't really know if that was the way to go.
I guess I don't disagree with it from a gameplay standpoint necessarily. It just doesn't make sense to me tying into the narrative.
Yeah, narratively doesn't make a lick of sense at all.
I do not understand why the Mongolians are going, that's a gold tree and there's a fox there.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah,
we'll mark this down.
Oh, that'd be a good spot for a haiku, actually. Yeah, that's a good spot.
Yeah, the haiku ones.
Yeah,
it's like,
it doesn't make sense.
The Mongolians do not care.
Yeah,
they're here to invade. Why are they taking note of a beach?
Yeah, and this is one of those cases where like it may work for a gameplay perspective, but like if you actually think about it from a narrative perspective, and I think the reason why we are being so critical on these narrative things is because it does so many other things correctly and so damn well within a narrative sense that so many systems feed into the game, that so many systems feed into like the world that it's created.
Yes.
So when there's like stumbles like this, they feel a lot louder and a lot more of a loss.
I definitely agree with you. For us, I just think that literally no one else thinks that.
Yeah, I think that's just the way that we think.
Yeah.
That's what we're about. We're dissecting here. Something I really want to talk about is the difficulty, because I think that the game does some very, very creative things with difficulty. So you don't level up in a really traditional sense in this game.
No.
So a lot of the progression is like, so you'll be dropped in, the first area, and then it's like, here's 4 points of interest. You need to collect these people in any order that you want, which I think is fantastic.
Yes.
And when you've done those like 4 type of missions, you do some little missions in between, but then you go and raid the castle, right? Mm-hmm. Which is great. And the thing that I love is that, like, one, it lets you tackle things in any order that you want, but at no point does it say like, oh, you should be level 16 to be tackling this mission.
Yes.
It's so good because like I haven't tested this, but I believe that either way the enemies are going to be the same difficulty and health and number or whatever once you reach the castle. So there's probably people that have gone in, tried the castle, got rolled, and then had to like back out and be like, oh, I need to go, find other approaches.
That's kind of me.
You tried to kind of rush it a bit?
I did because I was trying to get through as much of this game again as I could in preparation for this episode. I got rolled, but I stubbornly beat my head against a wall and got good.
Brute forced it. I found that there was a few times when I was in like a really spicy area, I could like cheese the AI just right.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. If you can get enemies stuck on level geometry as well, oh boy.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's pretty cheap, but we do what we can.
How did you tackle most encounters? Like, what did you do to mitigate the difficulty for yourself?
It really depended on how I was feeling. Like with the samurai versus ghost style, I'd use the kunai, I think they're called. I found they were really, really strong. If I'm just getting like swarmed by people, just kunai, and it just like makes a whole bunch of people stumble.
I clearly need to learn how to use those better.
Oh, the kunai was good. I didn't really use the other ones that much. I use arrows a fair bit. But yeah, just a lot of like, when I'm over my head, just running circles. So I'll like go up onto a roof and let people come up to me and just start like kicking them down. And yeah,
okay.
I found
that's what you meant by janking the AI.
Yeah, I found a lot of gaps in the AI pretty early on, and I tried to not exploit it. But yeah, when I was getting rolled, I was like, I need to pull these out.
Amazing. I had this thing where I would immediately go for archers.
Yes,
straight away.
Yeah, they're a bit tedious, aren't they?
They have this interruption power. where you get staggered every time you hit. Like, yes, it does damage, but that's not what I'm concerned with. It's that I get staggered and then someone else is going to come along and roll me. So I literally dodge towards them at the start of every
I'm just like
encounter.
rolling towards them.
How weird would that look in actual combat? There's no way that would work.
But I'm going to shoot this guy with my arrow. What is he doing? He's like strafing into me. He's rolling into me.
I don't understand.
I don't know how to aim down. I'm having a lot of trouble here.
So I would take those guys out, and then when the bomb guys were introduced a little later, I would take them out immediately after the archers. And then armor people are introduced as well, and your arrows stop working as effectively unless you're very, very precise about shooting people in the face.
Just like a good samurai would.
I mean, to be fair, like, if you can letterbox shoot someone in like the helmet,
you're a badass.
Absolutely. I don't want to brag here. I'm a badass.
Oh, he's pretty good at it. Also tying into the difficulty, I really like the skill tree and just how open it was. Like, I'm so used to a skill tree being like, it branches, hence the name tree. Like you get like, you're forced to choose one or two upgrades, and then you can choose between one of two and then one of three, etc., etc. But with Ghost of Tsushima, it gives you so many options, and it's not just like, there's all the different styles of combat. So you can invest like entirely in samurai style, entirely in ghost style, but it also lets you invest in like exploration stuff. So you can set the guiding wind to different areas and different things that you wouldn't usually be able to.
Something we haven't actually talked about, and something I forgot to put on this list, actually. Resource gathering is a pretty hefty part of how the upgrade system works for this game. And you can set the guiding wind to help you find these resources in particular. Actually, things like the flowers for dyes for your armor sets and things like that. Finding iron, finding gold. I'm pretty sure all of those can be set by the guiding wind after you've upgraded it well enough. And I've never used it because I am that type of person who's like, no, I want to do this legitimately. I'm going to get this my way. But it's good that it's there.
It gives you the option though. At the end, like if you are really stuck, you're like, man, I only need like 10 more gold to upgrade my sword to next level. I can do this and then find the gold. But I really love that. I really like the idea that you can invest in different ways and also invest in exploration. Like that's very, very rare.
It's you very, very rarely see a developer think about how the players want to actually invest in their game. It's more about how the developers want you to play a lot of the time. That's what I think Sucker Punch has done really well here.
I think I completely agree. I think that there's a lot of expression in this game, a lot of subtlety in this game that you don't really find in other places. There's definitely a lot of really good systems here.
Speaking of really good systems, which I've revealed my bias already, equips and charms. I don't know how to say this because it wasn't a particularly deep system, I don't think, but it's one that rewards player choice a lot, and rewards players choosing a particular play style as well. So we don't record video for this at all, but literally behind me right now is the menu screen for Ghost of Tsushima. And you can see, well, you guys can't, but Shane can see my character has a couple of charms equipped and the armor that he has equipped. And I tend to play in a way that has me using the archery a lot, and I am out of arrows all of the time because of how much I'm using this bow. The armor that I have equipped is one of the mythic armors that you can get in the first island. I have a longbow equipped, and the charms that I have are related to being able to knock the arrows quicker, because I want to be able to fire off a whole bunch of things in slow-mo as quickly as possible and accurately as possible, so I can thin numbers before I actually like have to really fight in a group setting. And you did that with the kunai, right?
Yeah. I like when I realized how helpful they are, I just started investing really hardcore with those, both with charms and with the skill points.
See, there you go. And that really like shows just how diverse this system allows you to be as a player.
Yeah.
You're achieving the same ends, right? We're thinning the herd, but it's about me choosing to thin that herd by tackling the faraway enemies before they can become a problem for me, while the close ones can't really get a chance in because I'm doing the slow motion.
Yeah, and I think that that player expression, that player choice is really important in an open world game because you will be playing a lot of this game. Like, generally speaking, open world games are very large, and there's like lots of different encounters and lots of different outposts and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, finding the thing that you find fun rather than the game saying you should play it this way, I think is a big positive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is there anything else in particular you wanted to talk about?
Oh man, like there are a lot of systems to this, but I think that covers a lot of the big ones. So should we throw to the wrap up?
Oh no, I still have a couple.
Oh, you still have a few more. Okay, yeah. Lay it on me.
All right, so photo mode. Did you get to use it at all?
Yeah, I gave it a look just because I have heard that this game is one of the benchmarks for photo mode.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Again, a lot of expression there. Like the world is already gorgeous. There's already so many like scenic spots. But when you enter photo mode, the ways that you can tweak the lighting, the expressions, the particle effects, everything, I feel like this game was built for photo mode, and I'm glad it really, really ran with it.
It really, really is. So as I said, I have the PS5. I was playing on that one. They've added a couple of things for photo mode there. Not too much from what I can tell, but just enough that it's, improved slightly. It's just stunning. Just absolutely stunning. But as weird as this is to say, I actually kind of used photo mode because HDR on the PS5 wrecked how you go into caves.
Oh, true. Like too dark? Just crushingly dark?
It was crushingly dark. I cannot see anything.
Oh, okay.
So in particular, there was a shrine that I was trying to climb up. So we haven't really talked about shrines, but it's essentially just another collectible where you will get
a bit more platforming.
Yeah, it's a bit of
always linear.
Always linear. A bit of platforming. You get a charm for completing them. Essentially, kind of very low stakes Tomb Raider puzzle.
Yeah, there was a lot of Tomb Raider energy. I did think that when I was going through it. And
one of these ones, I literally came across sort of late evening in-game time, used the grapple hook to get across a gap, and then just stood there going, what the heck am I supposed to do?
Can't see anything.
I cannot see anything. And not in a way where it's like everything is completely dark. You've got moonlight, you can see the cliff around you and all of that sort of thing. But I didn't think to look down at all. Nothing pointed me in that direction. And that look down was in shadows as well. Anyway. So I actually opened up photo mode to adjust the time of day.
Oh, genius.
In photo mode, so I could see better what I was supposed to be doing.
That's so funny. And it helped?
It did. It absolutely did. But I shouldn't have to.
That's so funny. That's so funny that it gives you that option, and and that can help you out. I always struggle with games being too dark. Like as soon as I start a game, I go to the settings, subtitles on, and change the brightness when it says like, when the brightness settings say, move the brightness scale until this is barely visible. I'm like, I'm going to make this really visible. I got to be able to see stuff in this game.
Well, I bought a TV with HDR so that I would be able to tell the difference between blacks.
It's too strong.
It's too strong. I don't know why this is a thing. I think a lot of developers just assume everyone's got the ideal setup. Not everyone has the ideal setup. No, it's hard, man. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that option is there, but I shouldn't have to go into photo mode to be able to see where I'm going at all.
Yeah, and even the fact that you said that the answer was looking down, typically we're not trained to look down, and especially not to look up unless it's right there in front of you. So within games, it's always about looking left to right. They have this. Yeah, it's really important if you are going to be using a more vertical plane that you need to signpost things.
Yeah, something needs to draw attention to it in some way. I don't mean a literal signpost, of course.
Yeah, not literally. Yeah. But it's very difficult to, because you walk that tightrope, because sometimes it's oh, here's the glowing yellow thing. And you're oh, there it is. There's some paint on there for some reason. I'm just going to jump up there.
The famous Uncharted yellow ledges.
Yes, everything is yellow. Yeah, strange.
I did also have one more little thing that I wanted to talk about.
Yep.
But we might come back to it after a break, if that's okay.
Okay, let's do it.
And we are back. I'm sorry, guys. I needed a potty break. Apparently, I can't go 40 minutes without actually going to the bathroom. It's something that I've learned about myself just recently.
We're getting old.
Oh, my God. Don't remind me. Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you for a week ago. Yeah.
I wished you happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For next year. Okay.
Yeah. It's definitely for next year.
Nice.
So before the small break that we had just then, I said that I had one more little thing that I wanted to talk about.
What's this little thing you want to talk about?
So earlier you mentioned guiding wind is done with a drag of up on the touchpad. Did you ever use the other directions?
That's right. Because what is it? You can play the flute?
Yes.
Is that one of them?
Yep. So play the flute. I can't remember what left is on it.
Is one just calling the horse?
No, that's just pressing it on the D-pad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you can play the flute. You can bow. Bow is down on it. And by swiping right on it, you can pull out and put away your sword. Did you ever use any of those, really?
Oh, I did it just to try it, but I didn't really explore it too much, or if there was much functionality. Like do NPCs or anything react to bowing or the flute or anything like that?
I hadn't tested the flute on NPCs. The flute, from what I understand, just changes the weather.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to collect another reward for a collectible type thing. I don't know if you found any crickets in any of the graveyards or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you've found a certain amount of crickets, you'll unlock a new song to play on the flute to be able to change the weather. And if, for example, it's rainy or stormy or something, the flute song that you have at the very beginning is the song for sunny.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that'll clear things up nice and easy for you. They don't really signpost that in game, which I actually kind of like.
I like that.
Yeah. The songs are called things that are very obvious as to what you would do with them.
So you know what you're getting. It's not necessarily called, this is the sun song, this is the rain song, or anything like that.
I think the first one is Clear Skies Refrain or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Those types of professional whimsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's good, because that kind of makes sense. It's, in reality, it's a kind of ridiculous mechanic, but they find a way to make it somewhat grounded within the world.
And it works great with photo mode.
I imagine.
But that's not the one that I wanted to really dig into.
Oh, okay. What was it?
So both the sword and the bowing. So bowing, I didn't see with any NPCs. I actually never tried it on any living people. If you bow at dead soldiers, so every now and then you'll find a soldier on a cliffside or something like that, or if you go to a cemetery, a graveyard, and bow there, Jin will say something nice about the spirits of the departed, which is really cool. But there's also some special points throughout the game where if you just bow at them, you'll get a sort of interactive animation type thing happen. Usually a cloud of insects or leaves stir around Jin, and then something might happen off in the lake that's near you or something like that, which is really cool. They literally never tell you this.
That's cool. Yeah, I had no idea.
The game doesn't even actually tell you that you can bow. At all.
It was something I kind of stumbled into.
Yeah, exactly. Like you try up on the thing for guiding wind, which it does tell you about.
So you think, what do the other ones do?
Yeah, what do the other ones do? But it never tells you what they do.
I love that.
Right?
To me, it's the little things like that make a game complete.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the sword, I actually found myself putting it away after every fight myself, not just letting Jin automatically put it away after a little while, but like putting it away deliberately. Like, I'm done. I will put this away. Jin actually wipes blood off of the blade.
I have noticed that.
Flicks the blood away every time as well. And there is literally no indicator or anything for damage being done to your weapon, but just by virtue of the fact that he cleans it when I perform this action, my brain is telling me this is taking care of my blade.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, it's like these little tiny interactions that you don't have to do, but they immerse you so much in this world and make you care so much.
Well, it's those little pieces. You take enough of these little moments, these little pieces, and you build them all up, and it becomes a big thing in the end. And I honestly think that's what defines some of my favorite games, when I run into those little moments here and there, and just like it just pulls you right into the world. It's
just like, I don't want to say that flicking blood away off of my sword is beautiful, but just the idea of it, the fact that someone thought to themselves, we don't have to do this, but we're going to put this in the game. That's beautiful.
I think that's fantastic.
I love it so much, and I really wanted to call attention to that. It doesn't change the gameplay really in any way. As I said, it's not like there is a HP system built into the weapons of any kind, but it's nice to have there. So was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, well, as I said, there's so many different systems that we can cover, but I think those are the big ones, so we'll throw it to the wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Throw it to the wrap up.
So one of the things that I wanted to do when doing this podcast was also figure out what I want to take from each of these games. And I don't mean I'm going to plagiarize every single aspect of Ghost of Tsushima. I'm not nearly talented enough to program my own game, let alone copy someone else's, wholesale especially. But like, what little aspects of the gameplay that are in Ghost of Tsushima do I want to represent in some way? What do I want what feeling, I guess, do I want the players to feel that I felt while playing Ghost of Tsushima, and how I can replicate that by using gameplay that's in Ghost of Tsushima as well. So
what were some of the standouts that you got in this game?
So the reason I wanted to bring up the little things is because I think that's something that's very valuable. I don't know what it is that will go into my game. For the record, it's a JRPG, an old school style JRPG type game. So I don't know exactly what I can do yet, but I'm thinking about it. And it's, essentially button presses that just do little things.
Just world building moments.
That's literally it, is, things that contribute to the world without being oppressively present. I'm really keen on that sort of thing. And the other thing was the GUI, the user interface. Something that I hadn't really thought about until I had this realization probably an hour or so before recording, actually. Old school JRPGs didn't really have a user interface in the main parts of the game, the world map, the dungeons, the towns, etc.
Typically you'd have to pause for everyone's health to come up. And
so you've got your menu screen, and there's a bit of GUI in the battles, but in your world map and stuff, no. And that's because you don't need it. And to really get players involved in the world, I think that's a good thing, is minimizing how much a player actually has to see versus what you want to put in the game, I guess. There's not a lot of information that a player has to know at every available moment. And Ghost of Tsushima has done a great job of like really honing in on that, pointing that out, and shining a beacon for the rest of the world. It's like, hey, this is how you do it.
I'd say I would agree and say I would say that's Ghost of Tsushima's biggest achievement out of all the systems. Just keeping things subtle, just keeping things just a bit more grounded, and just having a bit more faith in players instead of having to have tutorials and signposts and icons and everything in your face constantly. They can just let the players just go there and experience it and be more immersed.
I like that phrasing, the having faith in the player. I watch a lot of movies. I think one of the things that films do these days that is not great is that they don't trust the audience to understand a film. You kind of get hit over the head with everything in films, in the big budget stuff that's released today.
Oh, definitely. If something is symbolic, they will go out of their way to tell you that it's symbolic and explain to you what it symbolizes instead of just letting it be.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Having faith in the player in that same way, I think is probably moving forward gaming's biggest obstacle. Not having to explain every single little thing, just letting a player intuit what it is that they need to do, what they want to do, what they can do, because those are all three very different things. When you actually break them down, those are very, very different things.
Definitely.
Do you have any further thoughts?
No, just a bit of a closing comment. I think that I think the word I've used for Ghost of Tsushima is competent. It's a very deeply competent game. I can't express what it is. I feel like it's missing a bit of special sauce to really tie it all together. But I think what they've got with some of the systems is just very rock solid.
Absolutely.
If there's a Ghost of Tsushima 2, which I imagine there will be, I'm quite excited to see how they expand on this world, because they got a lot more things right than they got wrong in this game.
Yeah, definitely. All I can say really to cap that off is it is the best Ubisoft game yet.
Exactly. Well,
it wasn't made by Ubisoft. No, I'm sure. Sucker Punch.
Huh?
Sorry, the best Sucker Punch game.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll fix that in post. So we just want to say thank you to everyone that listened, to everyone that tuned in to episode 1 of the Game Surgeons podcast.
All two of you.
Well, it's just you and I listening to it.
I think so, yeah. Literally for post.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, thank you to us, I guess. And we'll hear us again in a couple of weeks.
Excellent.
Do you know what we're covering next week? Well, next time, I should say.
No, we've got lots of different games in the pipeline that we've thrown around, from big budget, small budget, everything. So we'll see what comes out of the cooking pot.
Cookie clicker it is.
Maybe.
All right. Catch you next time, and signing off.